Hello everyone, welcome to episode 7 of the Lure Fishing Podcast. Myself and Andy are back, and this time we've got a guest with us, Mr. Thom Hunt.
Thanks for having me, chaps.
Welcome, mate.
I'm a Lancashire lad originally, you see, so I've brought some real Lancashire Eccles cakes.
We'll definitely get through them after this.
Are you sure they weren't for Greg's as you stopped?
They were at the petrol station, but hey, I'm coming with bearing gifts.
We appreciate gifts, and it's
We love
food
gifts.
as well,
Yep.
so we can't say no to
You're
food.
speaking to the right
No,
audience.
they're
Sure.
cracking.
Cool.
If you like sultanas.
Thank you for coming down, or coming up.
Up, yeah.
Up. You've driven uphill.
Yeah. Only about an hour for me,
Yeah.
so it's not too bad.
Don't get too comfortable, can't have strangers around here. He's been eyeing up the water at the front of the house.
There's some beautiful water around here, driven over some lovely looking bridges.
The Fens used to be
Yeah.
the second, Ficklin, Neville,
Yeah.
reckoned it was the second best place in the country to go pike fishing.
Really?
Broads being the first,
Yeah.
and the Fens the second. But
Changed a little bit.
changed a lot. Both have changed a lot, sadly, but
Yeah.
if it's left alone, nature will find its place and sort it out again.
Mate, they come back quicker than
Yeah,
anything.
it needs to be
as well,
left
so.
alone, but that's another story for a different forum.
But
Yeah.
before we start as well,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say thank you to you guys. Firstly, for inviting me, but also for putting this on, because I know it takes effort and time and whatever, and I think you guys have got a really cool thing going on here.
Thanks,
You've
mate.
got
Appreciate
good
that.
chemistry as well. It's a good laugh.
It's a strange
And,
one, 'cause we haven't known each other that long,
Yeah.
but we get on really well, I think, and we do bounce off each other quite well, so yeah, I think it's working.
Well, I'm a punter first and foremost, and I've enjoyed watching the other episodes. So
Thank you very much. We have the potential for massive cock-ups.
That's what keeps it
I'm
entertaining.
glad you put ups on the end of that.
I'm constantly looking at little red lights, making sure everything's recorded all the time. Yeah, but
Yeah.
thank you for that. Yeah, we do get on really well, don't we?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
We also find that we'll push each other to make things slightly better.
Mm-hmm.
So people watching this will have noticed that the audio is a lot better
Right.
because I do the other podcast with Alex, and it's easy because there's only mainly the two of us. So we've got it set up. It's always in the same location.
Yeah.
It's always the same space. It's quiet. I know exactly how to set things up.
Yeah.
So when we started doing this, trying to do it on the sofa with DB, we were talking about it was
Bit
like
of a tight squeeze.
that. People won't realise this, but cables weren't stretching far enough. Nothing quite fitted into the whole confines of the room, and the sofa was too small. And we just went, we can't do this again. So hence the kitchen table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of technical stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
What if we
isn't
had
there?
cameras going this way? People would see wires everywhere,
Yeah.
and a bit of a health hazard and potentials for electric shocks and all sorts. But no, thank you for that. Yeah, it'd be good. And it's we tried it with you on my other podcast, didn't we?
Yes,
And I just
yeah.
felt it was a lot of match anglers watching,
Yeah.
and we had such great conversations that it was not getting the right audience. So this is going to be
Yeah.
yeah.
No, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thank you, chaps.
Yeah.
Cool. Have you been doing much fishing? Or
A little bit.
Being
Yeah, I've
close
just
season.
been on the canals a little bit lately, obviously, since the rivers and the resis are shut. It's a bit average. It's a funny time of year, isn't it? I caught a perch yesterday, still pre-spawn,
Yeah.
and a few that were post-spawn. The Zander are going through the spawn at the moment. They're a bit funky on the canals and stuff. So it's a bit of an odd time for me, but I've had some cracking fishing. You know, obviously we'll probably talk about most of this as well. But the tournament fishing kind of finishes pre-Christmas. We've had one this year, haven't we? Perch Mania, yeah. But other than that, I get to do. It's my only time. It's the only time of year I actually get to pleasure fish.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm virtually never pleasure fishing.
No,
I'm
always.
either practicing for a tournament, training, or whatever, or fishing a tournament. That's it.
So for your pleasure fishing, what is your pleasure fishing? Is it canals or?
Mate, it's a bit of anything. I like a bit of gravel pit bank fishing.
Yeah.
Had some cracking fishing in sort of Jan, Feb and March on a few gravel pits around the country. Clear water, the weed's not up yet, the pike are coming up shallow. So just enjoyed that. No real big fish, but up to sort of low to mid doubles, but like good numbers, good fishing. A bit on the canals. Don't fish rivers as much as I should. They're normally a little bit of summertime for me if I get the odd chance to do a little bit of chub fishing. But a lot on obviously the resis throughout the year and stuff like that, which I love the challenge.
Of course, yeah. I think before we kick off too much, congratulations are in order because you've recently been announced as the captain of Team England.
Yeah,
skipper.
Yeah. So
that's brilliant, mate. Unbelievable.
No, super. It's a very, very. I'm flattered. I'm honoured. It's obviously a big role.
Of course. Yeah.
Being in the team, it is obviously fantastic in itself. But then, now we're looking towards Poland. It's been cancelled like 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
I've been in the team like nearly 2 years, and it's just been that like anti-climax year after year because of COVID. But it's looking like we're going to get out to Poland this year, and we're starting all of our prep now. It's not until October, but we're starting prep with dates for practices, getting out, having team get-togethers on our boats. We were at Langorse a few weeks ago, trying to work out booking hotels. Like a lot of it's just logistics as well.
Of course, yeah.
And then when we get out there, we'll try and learn the pattern, see what the species are, and figure out what the best sort of strategy might be. So. Being captain is, it kind of fits into my wheelhouse as well. I'm a business owner, and I like to sort of be in control and be helping push, actively push stuff forward. So, it's a big role, but enjoying it.
I'm getting to know you quite well now, and when I saw that announcement, I thought they couldn't have got a better person because you've got the right attributes. Because not only will you'll drive people, but also you're very fair with people.
I'd like to think so.
You've got a really good balance, and I thought, and we talked about it before off air as well. Because obviously, I spoke about it in the last episode. You and Kev together you're not twice as good because you're very good individual learners. I feel you're 4 times as good because of the pairing. Because of the pairing.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to compete with you guys. I feel I have to be 5 times as good because you are 4 times as good, and it just the whole thing works so well. Not just individually, but together, and making you captain. It's just common sense because you're leading from the front, and you're both actually pushing lure fishing forward. I mean, Charlie was talking about when Kev turned up at the first qualifier for the street fishing.
Yeah.
And he was there just to push people.
Yeah.
And if you've got yourself and him in a boat doing that, it's like the team is being driven forward. So I think it's brilliant. It's well deserved.
Like I do recognise, like I'm unbelievably passionate about it, and I have really high standards for myself, for me and Kev as a pair, but as the team, and it can be a bit abrasive sometimes to some other people in the team. But I think first and foremost, like if people understand the reason I'm so passionate about getting this team onto the podium, that might not happen for a few years. We're going to give it our best shot, but I ain't going to leave anything. I'm not going to leave any stone unturned. It won't be for a lack of effort, certainly not on my part.
Yeah.
And so I push a lot of the team to be like, how do we be better? Because there's so much to it. There's how often you get out, how good you are at boats. There's the logistics of I've been talking on the phone recently with the guys about I need to order new wheel bearings because if we drive to Poland, my dreams might come unshattered on the side of a motorway halfway there and we can't get the boat there. How do we cover all of that stuff? How do we cover all of our licenses? How do we cover all of our, we're all going through qualifications to get all of our boat licenses for powerboat, that type of stuff. It's just all of that stuff, and then it's almost like the fishing is the last bit.
Yeah.
And then you've got, it's pike, perch, zander, asp. There's 4 or 5 different species it might be. It could be in any country across Europe. It could be what contacts have we got? How do we get information? How do we pull together as a team? It might be crankbait fishing. All right, who in the team's good at crankbait fishing? Everyone needs to be the best at crankbait fishing. It could be pike. It could be drop shot. It could be Ned worms. It could be, do you know what I mean? It's there's so many things. If you want to compete at that level on the world stage, we've got to be freaking awesome at all of it.
Yeah.
Otherwise you just turn into pool's fodder because there's other countries that will just beat you to it, so I'm setting those standards high. And
so take the fishing out of it. I used to fish the Norfolk Broads a lot. I'm talking 25 30 years ago, and the boat that I'll show you later, I had on a trailer, but I had all the spares. I had spare bearings, trailer tyres. I even had spare tools because you can't afford to break. I'd be going there in the night straight from work, Friday night, I'm in the dark. You can't afford to have, if something goes wrong, you've got to be self-sufficient.
Totally.
But when you're going abroad, you need that, plus you need to have all the regs for your vehicles.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all the extra little things.
Yeah.
But aren't these the things that are non-negotiable? Because they're simple things to do. And
if you think about
but
it
there's no
beforehand.
excuse for not doing it, because
Yeah.
it's not a skill in fishing, it's a practicality of getting yourself sorted. But somebody, a team, has to identify them all and make sure everybody, because you need to double check. Right, I was captain of Ipswich Rugby Club that I was telling Charlie on episode 5. I remember on a Saturday morning, they brought a new rule in. This was how long ago it was, about front row replacements.
Right.
Okay, so you had to take a front row replacement, because it used to be uncontested scrums if your prop got injured.
Right.
But you had to take a front row replacement because you would forfeit the game if you didn't have one.
Oh, okay.
And the season it came in was when I was captain. We went as the squad, and one of my props had forgotten his boots. It's like, how do you forget?
Mate, it's like babysitting sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's just, a grown man has turned up who's a key element of the team with the new rules. Now I haven't got a front row replacement because I'm a prop down who's sitting there on the side of the pitch. It's like, and you just got to, you as a manager or a captain, you then have got the worry of other people.
Mate, of course, but whether you're a business owner, you've got staff, whether you're in the army and you've got a company, whether you're running a team or whatever, part of it is almost like it's inevitable. If you've got 11, how many is in rugby? 11? 15. You've got 15 people. I don't follow rugby,
subs,
clearly.
3 or 4 subs, you've got 20 people.
Mate, someone's going to forget something. And that then becomes your job of as well as being on the pitch, as well as leading from the front, all of that backroom stuff, is...
Didn't tell us till we got there. But I think going back to what we were saying, I think you're definitely the right man for the job, and you're right. It's not about Poland, is it? It's about building a team with the right mentality for the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
100%.
It's going to take that long to compete, because we know that a lot of the Europeans are far superior, and
they're well versed in it for years and years and years. They've been competing at in the World Championships, in the top 3, in the top 5 consistently. We've got strong competition.
But also, as you've got friends in Denmark, I've got friends in Sweden. They won't think of travelling 4 or 5 hours for their local fishing. So as kids, they grow up with trailering boats. So they know how to get themselves out of pickles. So when something goes wrong, they've done it. They adapt. They know. And we have such poor slipway usage in the country. Who has the boats? Well, we're just starting to get there. I mean, obviously the dark world of the pike fishing that I was involved with, people had boats, but it was no one helped each other. And it's just a case of, but you learn the hard way. But it's a very steep learning curve that you guys are now on.
And it's going to be a good journey in front of us, you know. So
it's interesting for me watching as an outsider, seeing the team sort of assemble and build, and sort of half knowing everyone a little bit, and sort of seeing how everyone fits in and works together. But if you break that down even further into the pairs, or the teams, if you like, and how they work together, you and Kev, for me, I've watched your fish, I've seen how you bounce off each other, and how it's so fluid. Where did you and Kev start? Like, where did you meet? How did you do that partnership start off?
That's a good question, actually. There was a little bit of randomness to it. So a mate of mine called Tony got some tickets at Chew 4 or 5 years ago now, and Tony ended up last minute saying, "Oh mate, I can't make it." I think he had some family emergency or something. So I was going with him. I didn't even have the ticket, but he managed to rearrange it and speak to the lodge or whatever and said, "Do you know anyone that would go?" And I knew Kev was self-employed, and I think I'd met him a couple of times on the bank and fished with him. We'd been chatting online, and I think the last time I'd spoken to him, he was like, "Oh yeah, I love my midweek fishing," and it was a midweek ticket. So I basically sent him a message and said, like, it was like the Monday, and I said, "Mate, I got a ticket for Wednesday if you want it at Chew." He loves a bit of Chew fishing and stuff as well, so he was like, "Yeah," snapped my hand off. Mate, within 35 minutes of being on the boat, he had a PB pike on the boat. we had a 32-12
wow.
on the boat.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that was obviously a good start. But we just had a laugh.
Yeah,
the main thing was, you know, he's self-employed. He runs a like a landscaping business.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of businesses as well. And so, you know, we got to chat about the same things. You know, we're both roughly the same age. We've both got young families. Mm-hmm. You know, we're both business owners. So we just connected by talking a lot like that. And then as it rolls forward, again, it's almost like the fishing is almost the last bit of the, you know, the marriage. And then, you know, he's obviously an exceptional angler. He's got a different style to me.
Yeah.
But we now know each other's style very intimately, and we cover, there's like a Venn diagram, there's a big bit in the middle that we can both cover, and he's a little bit more at the power end. That's his natural tendency. He loves fishing bigger baits, power fishing, you know, really just trying to get that, force that reaction onto the hook. And I'm probably a little bit better at the finesse end of stuff, going a bit smaller, a bit slower and stuff. And so given any sort of given situation, you know, if it's anywhere in the middle, we're both on it. Yeah. If it's one end or the other, one of us is going to be on it, and then the other one is. And mate, sometimes I turn around to him and we're Xander fishing or something, and I'm like, "You're moving the lure. Stop moving the lure, will you? Hold it still."
Yeah.
And, do you know what I mean? When you've got to slow everything down, he's like, "I don't like fishing slow." He likes casting, he likes giving it some, and I'm like, "Hold it still, will ya?" And then he gets a bite, and the other way round, sometimes he's like, "Mate, put some turns on that reel, you know, give it some," and I'm like, "Yeah, all right." He battered me the other day, to be fair. So it's a cracking relationship, and we're good mates. And
I think that's very important as well, that we were talking about in one of the previous podcasts, that you and your boat partner experience, and how you need to be able to tell each other. Like there can't be any sort of barriers.
Kev.
Exactly. It's just got to be told straight and get to the point and get it done.
Mate, he tells it as straight as it comes, and that's exactly what I want.
Yep.
Because, you know, we can't be dealing with like, oh, he said, she said, and this, that, and the other, and standing at one end of the boat facing one way thinking, I wonder if he's got the ump with me because I said something or whatever. It's just like, mate, we tell it absolutely straight to each other. Yeah. And it's hilarious sometimes. We've got this thing, I'll for the younger audience, I'll abbreviate it, but every time we go out, right, we got this thing called the See You Next Tuesday list, where we're having a bit of a natter. We're having a bit of a natter about, right, who's on it this week? Yeah. You know, we'll have it's just a bit of chin wagging about this, that, the other, just a bit of a laugh. You know the only two people that are on it every single time?
Me and Charlie.
No, me and Kev.
All right.
We're 1 and 2.
Yeah.
We are 1 and 2 on that list every single week, because we got, you know, it's just an honesty, it's a laugh thing. But that's just a kind of like, tell it straight. You know, there's times when he's looked at me and just, you know, where was it? We were fishing a comp somewhere, and I've hooked a fish, and it was an important fish, and I've lost it. It's come off. You know, just sometimes they just fall off. Yeah. And mate, it got me because I knew how important it was, and mate, he afforded me about 3 minutes of I can feel sorry for myself. And then he just absolutely wound into me. Yeah. He was like, basically, sort your shit out. Like, I need you. I'm not fishing half a team here. I need you back in the game. Forget it. It's done. Let's go and catch another one. And then lo and behold, we did, and we won the comp. Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's just that kind of style.
That's exactly what you need. And I think that's where these partnerships and these teams work, is when there's no filter. You just say it how it is, and you get to the point and get it done.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. No. Have you got any... Apart from obviously the Team England stuff, if you take that separate and just you and Kev, or even just you, any aspirations and targets in competition angling this year? Anything you're really gunning for?
I think most of it, because it's been the pause for like 3 years because of COVID, 2 to 3 years, a lot, like my mind is heavily focused towards world champs at the moment. Yeah. On the domestic scene, certainly last year, the one that I really, really wanted to win, and I was fortunate to win, was the Lake Challenge Series. Yeah. I'd come 4th the previous year, so it's strong. You know, it's done over three sort of episodes.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it's different species. So there's a pike version, a zander version, and a perch version.
Mm-hmm.
I love that it's done over different times of the year. So there's one in the springer, one in the autumn, and then one late autumn.
Mm-hmm.
It's against 90 of some of the top blokes in the country.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting format as well. So I was desperate to win that, and I was lucky enough to win that. But again, it kind of changes this year. I'll have a bit of a swing at the bat for that, but I'm less bothered about it, less focused on it. And, you know, I haven't really domestic scene. There's a couple that I haven't won. I'd like to complete the LAS set. So I've won the Pike Cup. I've won the species, or the Specimen Cup, I think it's called, which is one perch, one zander, one pike. I've won that a couple of times actually, and I've won the President's Cup and the Zander Cup and the Perch Cup. So I'd like to sort of complete the set for that.
Yeah.
But it's one of those funny things, you know. You sort of tick them off the list a little bit, and Oxford Mania, I've come second in that. I'd like to win that. That's quite a big one.
Yeah.
There's a few of the other ones. We've won Zander Cup, and there's quite a few that have sort of won. I don't know. It's a little bit like collecting badges when you're a scout. Once you sort of tick one off, you go back with a bit of vigour, but you sort of just move on to the next thing. And really, it's
exactly like what we were talking about in one of the previous podcasts. Andy, now he's sort of won the UK Lure Series.
Yeah, mate, that was mega last year.
Thank you.
That was an unbeatable score as well.
I was thinking, for someone to beat me, they've not been big-headed. They've got to catch lifetime PBs on some of these species.
Oh, mate, I know that there was a few people that were sort of in contention, and then when I actually just started looking at your list, I was like, that it's. In fact, I'd be surprised if that total score, if it's done as the same format, your total length, I'd be surprised if that was beaten in the next few years at all. Anyway, I think it's a mega. Do you reckon?
But it's soul destroying.
Mate,
it's so lonely.
4 year, isn't it?
I mean, I was saying, I don't go back over it again, but the chub was brilliant. Catching it around, it took an hour.
Yeah.
It was like, but you've got to get a 60+ chub, which is huge.
Yeah.
And
What's
then-
that? 5-6 pound?
Yeah.
Mine was 5.14 summer weight,
summer,
and
yeah.
it was 58. So you've got to get a £6 chub just to be.
Yeah.
Mate, think about it. You need a 6 pound chub. You need a 30 pound plus pike. You need arguably like a 14 pound plus zander.
£15 plus Andy, yeah.
And
a £10
well, the perch, the way the format was done, the perch didn't even count.
No.
You caught £5 perch anyway this year.
Yeah.
And then what's the last one?
Big trout.
You need a
Trout.
£10 trout.
But they're knocking trout off this year. So
Are they?
Trout, so it will be perch. You'll need the perch.
Right.
But you see, the time constraint's not there.
No.
And where we spoke
You got all year to pick your poison and pick your venues and put the time in.
It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Whereas winning a 2-day competition is so darn difficult.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
It's the time constraint.
There's interesting things which, because I get asked the question a lot, like, oh, well, like, why do you think you're, like, why are you quite successful in that space? And I would actually say, like, it's actually not angling ability. Angling ability for me on any one given technique is a bit like having the wheel bearings. It should actually be a given.
Yeah.
You should have, like, because there's actually a lot of people that should have all of that in their wheelhouse anyway.
But they haven't.
They haven't, which
No.
does give me a slight advantage
Yeah.
when but the main thing, and I've said this for years, it's decisions. It's making the right decisions.
Yeah.
When you're in the right place at the right time with the right method, that is a window. It's a bit like winter fishing. You've got a half-hour window of feeding, and you've got a very slim window of presentation and a very slim window of where they are physically.
Yes.
And you need to hit all three of those. That's what tournament fishing does. It tunes it in so directly that if you're just like, you can have 2 of the 3 right. You could be like on the right method, the right time of day in the wrong spot. Or you could be in the correct spot at the right time of day and you've got the wrong method on. Do you know what I mean? There's so many fine tunings. And that is what I absolutely love about it. That it then rewards, like, the success comes from, you know, getting everything absolutely spot on.
Yeah. And what I'm finding, because I'm a newbie at this, is once you get on a roll, you feel unstoppable, don't you?
Yeah.
When you're not on that roll,
yeah,
you're like you're playing catch up all the time, and you're thinking it's a sinking feeling, isn't it? When you know you're behind the 8 ball.
I think it's like any sport, though. You know, confidence is you have to do your training, you have to do your methods and get everything down, get all your kit right, do all your preparation and stuff like that. And then there's just like there's a confidence thing, and sometimes, mate, you just get kicked in the teeth like 4 times in a row, and you're like, God, I thought I was brilliant last week. You know,
you're the fish, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's I love that competitive set. I come from a competitive background, you know, match fishing for nearly 20 years, and that's what I've kind of converted to the predator world now. So. Mate, full steam ahead. World champs is centre of the bullseye for me right now. So
are you for the World Championship? Are you? What's your priority? And I know you'll be honest because you always are.
Yeah.
Is it team first? And then
100%.
Right,
yeah.
Because let's be fair, we're all winners. So the individual is important as well. Has to be.
Yeah. But given the choice, you want a team gold, and you forsake, mate, anyone else can win the individuals. But
if you get a team gold, the individual's got to be up there anyway.
They would be there or thereabouts most of the time. But if it's the other way round, so I've listened, and I still do, because of the competitive streak, and because I actually learned so much from listening to Alan Scott Horn, Will Rays and Jamie Hughes. I listen to all of those match fishing podcasts still. And especially, like, there was one recently on the Guru podcast with Callum Dix. And he was in the England team and then self-selected out of the England team, and it wasn't for his ability. He just didn't feel like the team was run properly in the right sort of way. But I listened to all of those, and the guys that basically say, if you win the individual or you get a gold, silver or bronze in the individual and the team doesn't do any good, it's not worth anything. Because think about it. You've gone over there with all your mates. You've gone over as a team. One of you is successful. 90% of the team are bummed out because they've come wherever, low down. Yeah. You can't even enjoy it. You've got like a mini high inside yourself that you did quite well, and then you're looking around. You're like, oh shit, I can't share this with anyone. It's team first all the way.
But also, it's because I know Simon Willsmore quite well now, and what a lovely guy. And he's a fantastic match angler, and he's got back into the England team.
Yeah.
And you're right, isn't it interesting listening to their mindsets? These top maggot drowner match anglers, as we call them, but their mindset is so precise, and so I find them very targeted. They don't mess about. But they're prep. Alan Scott Horn. Do you remember Tom Scully, Catchable Media? So we had Tom Scully on one of the other podcasts, and I said to him, because he's filmed all these top match anglers, who's the best match angler you filmed? And Alan Scott Horn.
Yeah.
Why? Preparation. He said you should see the
Never thinks about anything else.
It's preparation. It's everything's perfect, and that's what I was talking to you about. Get the boats.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for not being prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what we're talking about. These match anglers are so good at preparation.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. It's an obvious thing to say, but everybody has busy lives. So some of these comps I was doing a couple of years ago, you think, oh, that'll do. But it won't do.
No,
you have to retie.
Not if you want to win.
You have to retie everything. You have to. I resort boxes, so I know exactly what I'm taking and what I'm going to use now. It's that targeted.
It's like that is.
Nothing goes in. That's an experiment.
Huge amount of inspiration from their goes. I'm not listening to those podcasts to work out what ground bait mix they're using for bream. Or how they presented a flat float on a river in Paris. I'm interested in the stories, and I'm interested in their mindset. Basically, there's a saying, if you're playing poker, that if you can't work out at the table who the mug is probably you, right? And it's the same thing when you want to go and compete anywhere. So whether it's the domestic scene, whether it's the international scene, if you think that'll do, it ain't going to do. You're halfway at best. If you turn up saying, oh yeah, let's just see what happens. I hate that phrase, see what happens. Yeah. No, I need to have a plan, because I know I've won so much over the last few years. Generally, I know how I'm going to win it beforehand, and then you put the plan in place. And then there's obviously a bit of variables and some change and some decisions and tactical changes and stuff. But if you're turning up and wanting to see how it goes, you're like 3 days behind me.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not even there, are you? You might as well not. It's like the Premier League, isn't it? You've got Liverpool and Man City.
Yeah.
Then you've got a lot of dross.
Yeah.
And then sadly, Norwich are local. They've got the teams at the bottom, and if you go there with that attitude, you're at the bottom. You're not going to get. You can't get anywhere.
No.
And it might not be. It's not a lack of angling ability necessarily. It's a lack of the other pieces of the jigsaw.
Yeah.
Because again, we've spoken about this before, but when you say about talking about the course match anglers and what's comparable, the one thing that sort of is any sort of competitive angling, right across the board, is time management. It's that they know, like if they're fishing on 2 or 3 different lines on a pole, they know how long to give each line.
Yeah.
You know, I've done that for 10 minutes, nothing there, switch line. Whereas someone like myself, maybe, who's not that clued up in it, might give it too long, and I've wasted part of my fishing time.
Yeah.
And the same things in the type of competition angling that you guys do. You know, right, I've got this much time to fish a pike. If I haven't caught them, regardless, I have to give up on that and I need to go and catch my perch because they're more important than this.
Yeah.
That's a recurring thing.
Yeah, those priorities.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I think where a lot of people struggle is the ability to, you know, individually, some people have got some absolutely fantastic skills. You know, you can have some amazing perch anglers and they've got loads of different techniques. You know, they can fish a Ned worm, fish a drop shot, fish a paddle tail, fish a chatbait, whatever it is. But then you hand them a pike rod,
fall apart.
Mate, they've lost.
Yeah.
Don't know what they're doing, you know. And that's the difficult bit. I've spent a huge amount of time, you know, dedicated to specifically, individually trying to work out all of the species behaviour. You know, I it's kind of weird. I put, like, in my mind, they've got like characters.
Yeah.
Right? So like the Xander, he's lazy and he smokes a cigar, right? Because sometimes warm water, you can get them to activate, they can come up in the water, but by and large, a Xander is freaking lazy, right? So now that we've got live scopes and stuff like that, I went to go and fish Xander Pro in Finland for Canal Gratis type thing last November, so that should come out this autumn. And, you know, I know how to catch Xander in the UK, but then I go to Finland and it's slightly different setup.
Yeah.
And the guy that I'm with, Hanu, mate, he's had Xander up to 33 pounds.
Just
like, they're
ridiculous.
insane. Absolutely insane. And the one that he's had, the biggest that he's caught, 15.3 kilos, was like bright as a button. Mate, it was immaculate, like it never been. Not these ones we catch at Grafham that are all a bit rubbed up and got funny faces and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But the point is, you know, he goes out and he fishes these wild waters, and I went over there and and it added a little bit extra for me because what I thought was a Xander, now exact same species, different scenario, different water temperatures, different lakes and stuff like that, I've now added onto the character in my head of what a Xander is, because they are slightly different over there. They're way more aggressive. But like things like, you know, so like when we're live scope fishing, you get the Xander on the live scope, right? And the live scope is a beam that goes out like this. So when you throw the lure over the top, if it's slightly to the left or slightly to the right, you get a strong return on the fish. Slightly to the left, slightly to the right, you're going to see your bait, but it's not going to be a strong return on the bait. Yeah. You've got probably 50% chance of catching that Xander if you've got a strong return on the fish, but not a strong return on. They won't move more than a couple of feet. If you get that cast exactly bang on, you've got a strong return, so it's in the middle of the beam on the fish, middle of the beam on the lure, mate, you're twice as likely to catch that fish then. Because it comes right over the top of his head. It's not coming over here, 2 foot to the left, 2 foot to the right. They're freaking lazy, and you fish slow, and it goes wobble, 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 and it goes, go on then, comes up and mullers it sometimes. So it's like the fine details sometimes of specific species, you know, pike, different, perch are different. They've all got little characters for me, and it's just a game of like tempting them with the right bait and the right depth of water, right time of year.
I'm glad you brought up the Xander Pro, because it was something I was going to try and sort of lean on a little bit later. But what's your feelings on that style of sort of like video style competition and YouTube type stuff? There's obviously in my mind, it's almost more preparation than that, because your limits on where you can fish are pretty boundless. You can go wherever you want. You can. How did you start dialing? I know for you, it sort of Hanno led you a little bit because it was on his home waters.
Yeah.
But as if we're talking generally, it's a very difficult thing to be involved with, I think, because.
Yeah. So what I'd say is, first of all, that when you look at the American bass fishing market, they are the leaders in tournament style, right?
Yeah.
Elite Series, FLW, all of those big series that are like tens of thousands to enter. Everyone's got mega sponsorship, mega boats. Mm-hmm. We're obviously taking a lot of inspiration from that and then adapting it into a European way.
Yeah.
So actually, I would say at the moment that it's quite young and we still haven't found, in my opinion, the correct format of how to present that.
Yeah.
You've got some of them where they have competitions and everyone's on the same water. Mm-hmm. You've got other ones that are competitions and you can go anywhere in Europe. Mm. I think the ones where you can go anywhere in Europe are a little bit better watching because they're more diverse. Yeah. So for entertainment, but for competition style of who's going to rise to the top, which is kind of what I'm interested in both, but pure competition, you can't beat everyone being on the same water, because like, mate, you could be in freaking France somewhere and I'm in Finland, someone else is in Holland, and just the way the weather works might just mean that you win because it's perfect conditions for you and I have horrible conditions, and it's like, I'm always interested in like who's the better angler, because that's the competition side of me. But you might have just had better conditions, or I might have had better conditions, and even if you win, that you're then like, well, we just had it easy, or we were on a different. Do you know what I mean? There's so many other factors that bring into it. But I think that there's a lot of new formats to be tried and tested. I think they're all good fun, mate. And YouTube is the place.
100%.
You know, you get 250,000 views on some of these things in the first week.
It's exciting, isn't it, watching these productions? You're on the Zone Pro, which is great. But because I know Pontus and Si and that lot from Canal Gratis, and they've built that up superbly over the years.
Yeah,
and
it's mega.
It's an entertainment, isn't it? So the way they do that is fantastic. I like the way they try and also on Fly versus Jerk, they give them, like, you can fish the archipelago, then you can fish a river and a lake. So that kind of focuses it a little bit. But it's still an entertainment, and I think that's what they go for. But for pure competition, you're right. It's everybody has to be on the same location. So is it Uvert organises Predator Tour?
Uvert, Uvert.
So that's on a massive system, isn't it, in Holland? So even then, you've got miles that people can go to different places. So.
And you know, it's like that's. You know, as we move forward into the domestic scene for me here in the UK is really good, really strong, and we'll compete and keep ourselves match fit. But, you know, it's just like stages. So it's now going to Holland, fishing WPC and Predator Tours and stuff like that, fishing World Championships, just next level. In all honesty, like the entertainment side of it, I think is good on the YouTube-y stuff. It's not really where my heart's at, mostly because I feel like it's got a tendency to go down that clickbaity route, just the way like watch like Carl and Alex's stuff, and theirs is migrated and now they've split up, but pre-splitting up I just felt it was so like they just to keep getting those views, do you know what I mean? And it's like you go clickbaity to try and, you know, please a bunch of like 19-year-old people in Singapore or something, because that's and it's just like you end up getting away from the thing that you started at. You get away, and for me, when I look at stuff like this, like I try and stay in my lane. I've got a little YouTube channel. It's not very big, but I have a really good conversations with people about the things that I'm interested in and the things that I'm good at. I talk heavily about tactics and stuff like that, and I get really good response. And it's just like, I don't need 50,000 subscribers.
We've had this conversation, so it's very easy to get drawn into that comparison. You compare yourself to others, and admittedly, we look at some of the views on some of the previous podcasts, we go, not as good as it could have been. And then we have to check each other and go, it's not why we're doing it. We're not doing it to get hundreds of thousands of views. We're doing it because A, we enjoy doing it, and B, we hope those that do watch it, however few, enjoy it too.
Yeah,
And that's what we do it to each other. And you'll have a moment where you go, a bit disappointed in that we only got so many views on X podcast. I go, hold on, that's not what we're doing now. And he'll do the same to me, you know.
Well, that's my point. What's way more important, so of course you've got to listen to your audience and if people will give you tips and stuff, but actually it won't be driven any more than you pecking him about an idea that you've got and you pecking him about, let's try it like this. Yeah. Because if you've got the centre of something, you know, and you've got like, I always see it as like an ember, it's like a burning fire. The bigger you, like if you guys are at the centre of that, mate, just keep stoking the fire. You know, and I think when you spread bet and when you're like looking at views and you're just detracting from the reason that you want to do it.
Well, you're right. I mean, episode 5 is the best one.
Yeah.
So far.
Who was that?
Not telling you. You got.
It's not out yet. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Well, don't give the game away. Yeah. But there's reasons why.
Yeah.
And it's not about me and him.
Yeah.
It's about everyone out there.
Right.
And it's about people sending us stuff in.
Oh, really?
And people telling us their stories. That to me is the most powerful thing about all this,
mate.
Isn't it? It's because
run with it.
Yeah.
A podcast is completely different than fishing a comp, isn't it? The podcast is about everyone getting involved.
Yeah.
And the more people that get involved and send stuff in, and we can show people, it's very powerful.
Yeah.
And I think
is it?
Yeah. Oh, Matt. Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
So I think everything's a learning curve, isn't it? And what we're learning about this is that. We're just going to do it. Even if one person watches it and likes it, it's a success.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Mate, it's such a peculiar thing though. Like I remember when I first started my business down in Cornwall. So I was diagnosed with cancer at 27, and I'd done a lot of travelling. I'd done some scuba diving. I studied marine biology. I was like just loved the outdoors world, and then. Sort of had a path for a few years where I was in the building trade. I was a stonemason. I was very good at it. I got paid a lot of money, but it was really stressful. And I was walking down a path that wasn't my road.
Yeah.
Right. And then I actually believe in some sense that, especially because so this is a entirely personal belief, but a cancer is your own cell going rogue.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was a bit of me that took responsibility for that.
Yeah.
And said, that was me. That was my cells. That was did I create this in myself? And there's I used to be big on mega psychology and stuff of I was walking down that road and there was tons of signposts in life telling me, change this, do that. And I ignored all of them. And eventually I kind of felt like I sort of almost maybe manifested that in myself, because there was a bit of me thinking, God, if you ain't going to listen to me, I'm going to make you listen to me.
Yeah.
You know, and you manifest this thing. And basically, when I was fortunate, I had emergency surgery and I had chemo, and for 6 months, and I lost a year of my life. And when I got back on track, I had to make some huge life decisions.
Yeah.
And those decisions were never let's make more money, let's do whatever. One decision. Never going to work in the building trade again. Yeah. And I'm going to basically make decisions to return to the things that I'm most passionate about. And when I was 27, it was all about the outdoor world. So I basically I went and lived in the forest for 3 years, and I created this world. So it was renovated a cottage, built a tree house, built some cabins, made this world. And I used to teach people, Lancashire was my grandparents' farm. That's where I grew up. So it was all about nature. It was about lambing in the spring. It was about shooting tin cans off walls, foraging with my granny, learning how to do butchery, cooking, all of that sort of stuff. So I just started this outdoor pursuits business, and it was mega. And I remember doing a podcast it wasn't a podcast, it was an interview type thing for Written magazine, and they said well, tell us about this business and whatever. And I remember saying to them, I've done this is perfect before anyone's turned up.
Yeah.
Because it didn't require validation in the business world. I didn't need to be successful financially. It was just I was scratching my own itch. I was back on my own path. I was super passionate about it. And then the irony is, you can't not be successful when you're not looking at the success ROI.
Yeah.
So it's it's a difficult one, because we've all got to battle, results and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I always just say, look, mate, and sometimes you just got to wear it. Some people make it when you look at them and think, God, our podcast is way better than that, or our channel could be way better than that, and it probably is. And some people make it through a bit of luck and stuff like that, and other people don't, and it's just the way life is. But
it's very profound, and I think you've hit the nail on the head.
So stick with. That's why I opened with like, I love watching this. I'm very honoured to be on, but keep it up because
it's. I think the mindset is important. Whatever you do in life, is if you're thinking about the result first, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
If it's jobs, it's money, isn't it? People. I mean, we all had to work for money to pay the tokens, basically to pay for stuff. Yeah. And you get stuck.
Lure fishing stuff mostly.
Yeah. You get stuck in the rat race of it all. But if you can have the mindset like you've just described beautifully, I think you've won whatever happens.
Yeah,
exactly. And you can apply that to anything. So, a little thing like a podcast, it's important that actually the viewers are the most important people.
Yeah.
And if one person enjoys it, it's well worth doing.
Yeah.
And if people are sending stuff in, which they are now, that's even better. And if we can get more people involved and people just tell us what they want us to do, we'll do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to dance naked on the table, but not quite in shape for that yet.
But so a message for you guys at home, like a little word of encouragement goes a long way. So like instead of, if you watch this podcast and you like what these guys do, just drop a little comment and just say like, thanks guys, or just put something rather than nothing, because otherwise you get to the end of a video a lot of the time and actually that a little goes a long way. So that's my advice to you guys. If you like what these two do, just encourage them, give them just feedback.
Appreciate it. I think that's cool. How are we doing for time?
We're doing all right. I think we need to wrap this up soon, but I've got a burning question for Tom.
Go on then.
What's your favourite method of lure fishing?
Oh, crankbaits, 100%.
Love it.
It used to be top water for bass, but I don't, because I lived down in Cornwall for 6 years, and I do love top water, but now that I'm in the freshwater scene so much, I don't get to do it much anymore. So any time that you're fishing an aggressive bait and you're fishing fast, which is kind of the only way that I fish cranks, is like I start medium fast and then I go the quicker I can go all the way up to as fast as you can wind the lure before it destabilizes and flips upside down. That is the best time, because the rod is like, you've got to get the right rod, you've got to get the right setup, you've got to have a whole system around it. And when it's bent round like this and it's going da 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 da, and then it just goes oof, and then it goes nod, and you've got like a 4-pound perch on, that is the best ever for me.
We're not going to have this conversation on film because it's secret, but I remember the first time I did WPC, I was really pissed off at myself. And I phoned you, do you remember?
Yeah.
And we must have spent an hour and a half on the phone.
Yeah.
Because Tom is so good at this. He will just give so much advice, and we spent most of it talking about crankbaiting and the depths that you go into.
Yeah. I
sat there and I thought, wow. And it made me reassess all, because I still don't think I'm a very good perch angler. And it made me, I thought, well, I'm going to start from the beginning again. I'm going to tear everything up.
Yeah. And
I'm going to start again. And it was amazing, the conversation. And when I forgot about the conversation until you.
Oh really?
I thought I had to pull over. I was going to one of my rentals, and it's just down the road here. And I pulled over, and I thought, this is amazing. And I took you off hands on this. It was in trance. And I'm going, I found it around my notepad. I'd been taking down notes.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about all sorts of things. The rod was really important to you.
Yeah, the whole system. It's a cranking system, and I've got. Two that I use most of the time. So on the resis, 2 really. I've got dedicated cranking systems that is a specific reel, specific braid and specific rod for different sizes of crankbaits.
Yeah.
And different, how they run, how they feel. It's all in the feel for me. So a good example was during lockdown, because Kev loves his crankbaiting as well. And during lockdown, Kev's like, basically making crankbaits. And we're on the phone every day, and I'm going, can you make one that's a little bit more like this? And he's he's got all the machinery and stuff. He's making wooden ones, and then you're making them buoyant, and then we're casting some plastic ones, and we're using different lip materials, and he's ordered, and mate, when he gets into something, he'll phone me up and go, oh no, I just spent another 300 quid online at midnight last night, and I've got a load of plastic turning up and a new machine and a new whatever. But we got into it, and then when we were allowed out, the canals were pretty much the only thing that were open. It was about April or May sort of time.
It was mid-May, wasn't it? Yeah.
About May it might have been. And we got out fishing these mini cranks, and we spent so much time doing it that we perfected this system. And a mate of mine said, oh, I love fishing bit of cranks and stuff, wanted to come out with me. So he came out, and mate, he could barely get a bite. And I was catching loads of perch, little zander, all this sort of stuff. And it got to one stage where he said to me, give me that crankbait that you're using. I was using the little buzzbite, Westin buzzbite. And so I ripped it off and I said, you give me that one that you've had on. He had a little Salmo something on. I've put it on. Within 5 minutes, I'm catching on the lure that he couldn't catch on for last. And he couldn't get a bite. And I was like, give me that rod. Mate, within one cast, I knew what was wrong with this setup. His reel was too big. The high-speed ratio on his reel.
Right.
And you basically flicked it out. And when you start winding, it was just the braid wasn't right and the reel wasn't right. And I put like 3 turns on it and went, nah, wrong. And gave it back to him. And I said, your reel's all wrong, mate. And I was using the right reel, the right ratio for retrieve, the right size braid and stuff. Because you've got to know where it sits in the water and how deep it's going. And when you touch, the rod is all about when you touch the bottom. Mate, I can tell the difference between gravel, mud, silt, timber, like absolutely everything. And super technical. And then, mate, this is the tough bit. Like, crankbaits are right in my wheelhouse. Times that by like 10 other methods for perch. Times that by 5 methods for pike. 8 methods for zander. Like, you know, and I've got a mind that wants to perfect all of them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely crankbait.
I had an experience with crankbait fishing. I don't know if you remember it, but we fished the River Chelmer near May. We turned up. I think we both had a crankbait on. It's a very similar situation. I couldn't get a bite. Tom jumped in behind me as I moved out, ripped this crankbait through at like light speed. I remember looking at it thinking, no chance. Yeah. Bang. Straight away.
I'll tell the story about that, right? Because we had a little get together, and it was with Predator Tackle. So Dave was there, you were there, I think Wayne was there as well. Yeah. Me, maybe one other person. And we turned up, and it was like, it was on a river, and there was like a little weir pool, wasn't there? And it was, we pulled up in this car park, and mate, I hadn't eaten all day, and there was a little McDonald's there. So I went over, got a McDonald's, came back, and these guys were like fishing various different bits, and there was a railing, and I was leaning up on the railing, eating like a ice cream thing, and I was looking down, and Charlie was like, oh, I've just had a big perch follow up there, and he was fishing away, and I went, I'll catch that in a minute. And I carried on eating my ice cream because I just knew what the water temperature was, and I know what a perch behaviour do. And so once he's had a follow, I'm thinking to myself, there's only one way you're going to get that fish on that hook, and that's force him on.
Yeah.
If you get him to think about it, if you leave the decision up to him, as in a conscious decision, you'll never catch him because he's come up, it's clear water, he's already seen you. And I was like, I'm going to force him on the hook. So I finished this ice cream, put it in the bin, jumped over this railing, came down within about 5 casts. And you've got to burn it as well. Because you have to, when it's like that, you've got to appeal to the primal instinct. Yeah, you have to get him to lash out before he's thought about it. If you give him a chance to think about it, no chance.
And to rub salt in the wounds, I had to net it for him.
Yeah. It was good too. It was like, what, £2 or so?
£2.
Yeah, it was nice. It was funny though.
Yeah. I've seen Tom in a comp, Charlie, right? And I know he's using a crankbait because suddenly, when he's with Kev, you can see him every now and then in a little chat. When he's got a crankbait, it's as though no one else is in the boat.
Yeah.
Head down.
Yeah.
And you can see him, you go, I know he's got a crankbait. Well, you can tell what he's got. I know what he's doing now because he's in the zone.
Yeah.
And I can see and he's, I know where he was fishing, it was off a little gravel, stony shelf as well anyway. I'm thinking, I know what he's doing. But it was just, I could pick up the concentration from 200 metres away going, I know what he's, it's amazing. Yeah.
And sometimes it's not right, and so it's just a feel. A lot of it is, for me, it's water temperature. Like when we're over 14 degrees is the magic number for me. If it's 14 or above with perch, it's my go-to. If it's under that, you'll catch on it. But you've got to get the right conditions. It's got to be the right. There's a few things about the conditions, the day, the wind, all of that sort of stuff that I'll be like. Sometimes you put it on for about 4 casts and you're like, nah, this isn't right.
Yeah.
But sometimes, and mate, sometimes you're only looking for 1 or 2 bites. You know, like Perch Mania,
Yeah.
they're only going to be big uns.
Yeah.
You know, and we've caught on cranks in Perch Mania, and.
Did you
Not
put one
all
on?
of them.
I
Yeah.
didn't put one on.
Yeah. I put one on for a bit. Kev
Yeah.
caught on one. But it was just, you know, sometimes you're like, yeah, it feels right, and you've still got to put like an hour or 2 in before you get a pull, but you just know it's going to work. And other times, within 5 minutes, you're like, nah, this is just wrong.
I've had that conversation with you, because I used to detest crankbait fishing.
Really?
Because I think, you've got to remember, when I was learning to lure fish as a kid in the early 90s, we had the big S's.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and it was just so, there was so little
narrow.
choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just put you off, because you just felt, all
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
doing is
yeah.
just reeling this back in. So my long time ago mindset was, and then that conversation I had with you, I thought, no, that's one of the aspects that I'm so weak on.
Yeah.
So I've spent a long time just casting in different depths of water,
Yeah.
even the same make model of crank, but they're all made so different.
Yeah.
And I know now that one, it goes a foot deeper than that one, even though it's the same make, but they behave differently.
Yeah.
And it's learning about, and people think that they don't do the same things. And
Oh, mate, they're
you can tune
chalk and cheese.
Yeah, and I spent so long doing it, and obviously now I've started catching some. I've really enjoyed crankbait. I've learnt to love it, because I now, listening to you, I've thought, hold on a minute, I've not got the right mind process about this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this wrong. I've got the big S in my head.
Yeah.
Get rid of that. Start again. So I've just got a whole range. I've got tackle boxes now, just with crankbaits in different and layers.
And you've got to know what they all do
Got to know
and
what
how
they
they
all do,
react.
yeah.
That's why when you've got a system like rod, reel, braid system, you've got to keep it the same.
Yes.
Because then when you're running and clipping different cranks on in different depths of water, you need to be offering different, so sometimes it will be, I want the mid-water and I want more of a profile, so I want a chunkier bait, I want to push a little bit more water, and you're more likely to get pike. Sometimes you might be like deep cranking in 18 foot, and if that bait does not touch the bottom, it ain't going round.
Yeah.
I've had that. I had that at Pittsford a couple of years ago. I was in about 19 foot of water, and I had baits that were running to about 15, 16 foot, and mate, on the Mega 360, 100% perch, putting it over the top of their head, and it's coming this far over the top of their head, and they wouldn't budge an inch for it. And I've got this method called kneel and reel. So you kneel down on the boat, and you lean over the side. You got your rod and about that much, your reel and about that much of your rod above the water,
so
and you got 6 foot of rod underneath. And you're winding it down. Everything's a little bit deader, but you can still figure it out. Get it down, and then you're like, oh, I've touched the bottom now. 4 winds later, it's gone round again.
Yeah.
Because it's a reaction thing. It's when it's right in their territory, when it's bouncing off the bottom, it diverts in a certain way and it triggers them.
Yeah.
And mate, you could cast 1,000 times and go over their head and they wouldn't have it. And I ended up with like 6 big uns in about 10 casts.
And it's amazing watching some people, and I call them the fish warriors.
Oh yeah.
Because they just repeat what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
But they're not making the subtle differences. They're repeating. So they're changing lures, but they're just changing the colour. They're not changing other things.
Make vibrations, silent versus rattles,
so
depth,
things,
hitting the bottom versus not, profile.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
And the bespoke tackle is so important. So now I've got a rod, reel and braid setter that I know that I have just for cranking of what I'd call perch cranks.
Yeah.
But for pike, I won't use that. I'll use something. But you know what things are going to run to.
Yeah.
And without having that conversation with you, I wouldn't have gone, hold on a minute, I've got this wrong. I need to start again. But I didn't ask you that on purpose. It just brought back all those. I remember the conversation. It was amazing listening to it. And I thought, God, yeah, he's right. I need to.
Once you get into one, see, this is in a tournament sense as well. Some people will be like, oh, I threw a chatterbait for a while and didn't catch, or I threw a crankbait for a while and didn't catch, or I threw a plastic for a while and didn't catch, or I did, or there was one, or whatever. Mate, it's not like you don't just clip on a chatterbait, and it's like not all chatterbaits are made equal. Not all trailers are made equal. Not all presentations are made equal. There's different blade sizes, there's different colours, there's different trailers, do you know what I mean? Like, and sometimes I've often described lure fishing as like, this is lure fishing, this is a subset of whatever you're perch fishing when the water's 14 degrees. This is a subset of perch fishing at 14 degrees on this particular day in these particular... You're trying to constantly zone in on something. And if you're just on a chatterbait and it doesn't go round, it's not like detailed enough. Sometimes you just got to tune in a little bit more. I mean, we've probably all had days when you catch a load and the bloke on the boat next to you, you've only got one of a certain type of lure and it just happens to be working. If you hadn't had that lure, do you know what I mean? That's how specific it can be sometimes.
But we can also have a whole hour talking about braid.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's another... You can forget the lures.
Yeah.
Talk about, because that's the other thing I've been learning about is... And the odd person having the boat, I look at this, this is going to sound big-headed, but this year I've really dialed into the perch in particular. And other people that join me, I go, you're not going to catch anything.
I know.
From the braid.
Yeah.
Forget the terminal tackle.
Yeah.
And then you just...
Mate, that's what I love. I love
it's
all that
pieces
detail.
to the puzzle.
It is.
Like, you know, having now started working at Hanningfield, I'm really getting into like the ultra-light lure fishing for the trout.
Right.
Learning a lot, especially from the Lithuanian guys. The Lithuanian guys are particularly good at it. And they put a lot of onus on the braid they use. And they do not skimp on price. They do not care.
Like a lot of the top quality ones are 40 plus quid a spool, aren't they?
80 quid.
Really?
The one I've just bought is 80 quid a spool.
What is it? Oh, now I want to know.
It's a Verivas saltwater finesse.
I want to know.
Right? And they all use it.
Really?
And they will. And if they haven't got it, they don't go fishing. And they can only get it from Japan.
Mate, some of the Japanese kit's next level, isn't it?
I'm playing.
I'll tell you what, Charlie.
It's unreal.
If you're a sponsored angler, you'd be alright.
Yeah.
And that leads us on beautifully.
It does.
Too. Did you like that? Because I was conscious of the time, you see. So if you're a sponsored angler, you can get this kit at a discounted price or even for free.
Yeah.
So
depends what deal you got.
Depends what deal you got. Now that would make a fantastic podcast.
Yes.
And believe it or not, that is what we're going to talk about in episode 8.
Yep.
Sorry to cut you off.
But
we've done about an hour.
We'd keep going forever.
With someone like Tom here, we could just talk all day, and I'm sure we'd love it, but people would just go, will you guys please shut up? So, Tom, thank you for episode 7. It's been brilliant. I could talk to you, we do.
Yeah.
Phone calls aren't 10 minutes.
No.
Charlie, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think we've covered it all. I think we've drained enough info from Tom.
Oh, we're going to take him to the pub later, and he's got no chance. I'm going to tie him down and extract some more juice.
Cup of tea and an Eccles cake, boys?
Yeah.
We're going to have to look at the camera. The last thing, has the camera slipped, Charlie? Is it at a funny angle?
Maybe.
So, guys, I will tilt it in post-edit, whatever it's called, and I might have to chop me off or something. It looks like it's slipped. It doesn't matter. Anyway, Tom, anything else you'd like to
add? No, just having a laugh as well. It's good to have a conversation, isn't it? That's what all this is about.
I remembered something that we need to mention. For those of you who watched the previous podcast, you know we're running a competition.
Yeah.
A giveaway from some lures. That is still running. Runs until episode 10, which is out on Monday, May the 30th. So to enter, all you have to do is screenshot any part of the podcast, share it on your Instagram story, and tag our Instagram profile, which is at the Lure Fishing Podcast. I think I've got that right.
He's good at this, Tom, because I forget this bit.
Yeah.
And
can I chuck a few West End lures in that,
or
is that a little box of something?
Of course you can. Yeah.
Mate, the old buzzbite, bling perch.
Chuck them in.
That's my favourite crankbait.
That'd be great.
I'll chuck a few of those in for sure.
Yeah, I went to Diver Factory and I got a load of Pro-Rex lures, so they gave us that before we started.
Oh, that's good.
Tom Moore, FFS, has given us some samples as well. Yes, anything. Yes, so guys, look.
It's building.
Yeah, I'll chuck a few bits in for sure.
Tom. Yeah, cool.
Brilliant.
Right.
Thank
We're going to nip this one in the bud, and episode 8 is some real juicy bits. The old promotional team, but we'll get onto that in episode 8. So everybody, thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.